The Dolphins' run game is starting to look like the real show of the Miami offense, lighting up the field over the last 3 weeks with some massive ground yardage. Miami's hit over 150 rushing yards in each of these games, an impressive stat that places them among the league's top rushers. The turning point? Week 5, when they faced off against the Patriots. Rookie Jalen Wright was at the center of it, hitting 86 yards on 13 carries. But here's the kicker: after leading that charge, Jalen has barely seen the ball since. For a guy averaging 5.3 yards per carry, the best on the team, that doesn't sit well with a lot of fans. Even Dolphins running back coach Eric Studesville is singing his praises. "Jalen's been awesome," he shared recently. But then he acknowledged the issue: "We've got a full room." The Dolphins' backfield is stacked, with guys like Raheem Mostert, who broke the franchise touchdown record just last season, and Devon Achane, a young back that's already showing he can dominate in the air too. It's tough to keep all these guys involved. "We want to give him more touches," Studesville said, emphasizing the dilemma, "but it's just about finding ways to do that." Jalen had his big moment in that Patriots game, where he logged 25 snaps because Mostert was out with a chest injury and Achane left early with a concussion. He was the guy that day. Yet in the last 2 games, he's seen his snaps drop down to a mere 6 and 3, barely getting a chance to make an impact. Against the Colts, he ended up with 5 carries for 33 yards, and then only 2 carries for 19 yards versus the Cardinals. Head coach Mike McDaniel admitted that the team's plans for Jalen didn't quite go as expected. After their gut-wrenching 28-27 loss to Arizona, he shared some regret about the situation, mentioning, "We wanted him to have more opportunities, though the offense only had 8 possessions that day, limiting chances to get Jalen involved." And then McDaniel said something revealing: "They're not in charge of the opportunities, they're in charge of making the most out of them." That's the philosophy driving Miami right now. Jalen has been delivering on his end every time he's handed the ball, but even with that, it's a juggling act to work everyone in. But here's the thing: Jalen isn't out there openly pushing for more touches. With the season at its midpoint, he's keeping calm, calling his performance pretty solid but acknowledging that he has room for improvement. And while he probably wouldn't mind more snaps, he's taking a pragmatic approach, wanting to make the most of what I get and just focus on playing his best football. You've got to think a guy like that, a rookie with such poise, is bound to go places. Still, it's clear there's a bit of a logjam in the Dolphins' backfield. Mostert's got a lot of the spotlight, having cemented himself as a scoring powerhouse. Achane has been building his role too, particularly in the passing game, giving the Dolphins a versatile edge. And then there's Jeff Wilson Jr., who's come through at critical moments. Offensive coordinator Frank Smith explained the situation, noting that the team is making sure certain packages are distributed. "It's a tough call, finding ways to make sure everyone gets their shot, balancing preparation, and getting the whole team in sync." Studesville echoed this, explaining that it's not just about which player is up next, but the situations they're best suited for. "Sometimes it's situational, maybe it's red zone, maybe it's third down," he explained. "Certain guys play more in those situations. And sometimes if a guy's going, let him go." That philosophy makes sense, but with Jalen's numbers, it's hard to understand why he's not getting more time on the field. So, what's holding Jalen back? If we're being honest, there's no straightforward answer. It might be the Dolphins want to establish a rhythm, with Achane usually leading off. Or maybe it's Mostert who's the go-to guy in red zone situations, as Smith hinted. Or simply, as strange as it sounds, there's just one football, and it's got to be shared. In other words, Jalen's potential isn't lost on the Dolphins. It's more like they're holding him back strategically, keeping him as a bit of a surprise weapon. When Jalen's name does get called, the defense isn't prepared. And that element of surprise? It's something Studesville's proud of. "We trust those guys to go in and be productive," he said, leaving it to the defense to figure out when and how Miami will use each back. It's a mix that could be key for Miami down the stretch. For Jalen Wright, there's hope he'll get more action, but until then, he's staying patient, waiting for the moment he can make his mark.